It's a big world out there. Welcome to Bigfoot's Wilderness Podcast.
Welcome everyone to Bigfoot's Wilderness Podcast. Those of you that have listened to my channel are aware of my encounter stories. Well, we're going to do something a little different, and we're going to have a podcast where we can talk mostly about Bigfoot. I can promise you one thing: we won't discuss or go anywhere near politics. And that's all I have to say about that. To start the show, I'm going to play a message that was left on my voicemail.
Hi, I'm calling in. This happened quite a few years ago. The family, we had stopped at Medoc to get some exercise, walk some of the trails there. I think it was about 3 years ago, September. I just remember it was a really, bright day, really nice day. And we were walking down the trails. So one of the trails takes you down. I can't remember the name of it, or takes you down near the little river or stream, body of water. And I had walked ahead a little bit, and my family was behind me a little distance. And I kind of start feeling a presence, or like someone's watching you, and that kind of feeling. And there was also an odor, like I don't know, maybe like a wet dog or something that I noticed. And then going on a little further, I noticed and I could hear a little bit of crunching, and it looked like a large, maybe a bear or something that was kind of tracking along the stream. And so I stopped and watched for a little while, and then as it broke on my side of the stream and crossed the stream, it was immense, larger than any kind of center that plays professional basketball or anything. It was a very large, upright animal object that crossed the stream. And at that point, I turned immediately around, watched it for just a little bit, and then turned immediately around and headed back to my family. I was ashen, white-faced, and said, we need to leave this area right now. They were kind of upset what's going on. And so I didn't really say anything. I said there might be it looked like a bear or a wild animal down in there. And then we left that area. And so I haven't been back there since either, because it was definitely frightening. So that's my story, and I can definitely tell it wasn't a bear, because I do know bear, and I've seen many of those, but it was very large, upright, and across the stream on two legs. So
That 3-minute rule is hard and fast. Thanks, Google. The park that the caller mentioned is Medoc Mountain State Park. I've been there. It's just over the Virginia line. About 12 miles away is the Paranormal and Cryptozoology Museum, owned and operated by Steve Barcelo. It's a cool museum, evenly split between Bigfoot and the paranormal. If you ever find your way down there, tell Steve that Bigfoot's Wilderness sent you, and he'll add on an extra 10% tax. Just kidding. Steve's a great guy, and he often hikes the trails at Medoc. I'd say as often as once per week, and sometimes he has company. Steve gets phone calls and the occasional visit from eyewitnesses that have experienced something in the park, and just recently a Bigfoot was spotted a few hundred yards behind the Crypto Museum, where there is a church with a graveyard. Littleton, North Carolina has had some strange occurrences going back to the earlier part of the 21st century. A veritable logging boom seemed to disturb, or rather flush out, these creatures living in this rural area. Whenever I visit the museum, Steve will share his most recent sightings map along with some witness testimony. Let me just add that also in the early 2000s, I want to say 2008, another incident, or rather encounter, happened not 50 yards behind the museum. A neighbor was on her back porch reading and having a cup of coffee when not only did she hear crashing noises, but saw what she described as an 8-foot-tall creature in pursuit of a deer. Apparently and understandably, she was so frightened that within a week's time had moved. It seems Steve's museum is a bit of a Bigfoot hotspot, and as I mentioned before, it's a good 12 miles from Medoc Mountain State Park. And to the gentleman that left the voicemail, I appreciate that you took the time to call in. I want you to know that I felt the same way as you after my own encounter. I knew it wasn't a bear, nor was it any other animal in the forest, but I was truly hesitant to say Bigfoot. Although I did have a combination of events that brought me to my conclusion, like footprints, a hair-raising feeling on the back of my neck whenever I turned away from the woods, ape-like sounds, and of course the visual. I did learn a few valuable lessons though. If you're going to stay in a remote cabin with your family, carry protection, if not for your sake but for theirs, and carry a real camera that's not built into your mid-grade cell phone. Also, maybe checking a few websites for sightings in the area. That might be a good idea when you're traveling. If you'd like to hear about my encounter, you can scroll through my videos and find the Bigfoot incident. Medoc is a park like any other park. If I never knew anything about Bigfoot, I probably wouldn't have noticed the tree breaks or the tree twists, or even the footprints, which I found consistently each time I hike the trails. I wear a size 15 shoe, and they've all been larger and wider. Once, I got lucky enough that I could actually feel the toe impressions. Let me just mention that I'm not a researcher and definitely don't claim to be one. I like to get outdoors like the next person, but now I know what to look for. One thing I like to do whenever I have a little downtime is watch videos on YouTube. I found this one in particular really interesting. It's the 2009 San Antonio 911 call about Bigfoot dragging off a deer and supposedly devouring it. The audio is a bit tinny, but you can make out what they're saying. A homeless couple observes the creature and the woman calls 911. She asks the dispatcher to send out animal control, and while the dispatcher is confirming location, you can hear a man's voice in the background, and he says loudly, "I'm 6'3" and he was taller than me." He refers to it as a he. To me, in my opinion, it appears that the woman is certain that this is some sort of an animal, while the man that also speaks to the dispatcher mentions that he picked up the deer and carried it away. What I think is so amazing is that two people who witnessed the same thing saw something different. The man saw what he identified as less animalistic and gave it a gender, but the woman just saw the opposite, repeating to the dispatcher that animal control needs to come out. I suppose it's common to have two sides to a story, but this encounter occurred just feet away from them. How could it be different? These are the things I think of when I have downtime. I don't know of any follow-up videos, but if anyone has any more information, please feel free to post a comment. Thanks. Alright, so each week I'll bring a person to be interviewed, and I've selected someone who I think you'll enjoy. So please check it out. Thanks.
So, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the man that makes Pacwest Bigfoot tick. I've listened to his channel almost as long as it's been around. Dave, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule. I promise not to take too much of your time. Got a couple of questions for you, questions that I don't think
Sure.
anybody usually asks you.
Okay.
So let me just start with the first one. What got you interested in Bigfoot?
Well, actually, I think in just a few here, we'll be kind of sharing my own interesting, I guess you would say, encounters. One with me and my mom, and the other one with just me and a couple friends of mine. And but I actually got interested in this. I'm from the Pacific Northwest. It's been a part of folklore and tales and stories and myth and legend and science, even to some point, here in the Pacific Northwest since I've been here, which is pretty much all my life. And so, yeah, it was always something. My two grandfathers, when they first came to the Pacific Northwest back in the late 50s, were loggers, and they would be logging anywhere around Southern Oregon all the way down to Happy Camp, California. So, of course, they heard all of the legends of Bigfoot and all the stories and things. And even they had said that there was some friends of theirs that, from time to time would have some pretty interesting little tidbits and stories and tales. And so I guess you would say I've been interested in it ever since. I never thought I'd see what I saw. I never thought I'd experience what I experienced. But I'll tell you what, I was always interested in it.
Yeah, Bigfoot is fascinating. What a meme that I saw not long ago that said that he's a beautiful mystery. He certainly is.
I don't know if he'd be beautiful though.
Well, we don't know about that part, right? That's true.
Yeah.
I'm assuming he's not pretty. He's not pretty.
And if I cough a little bit for you guys, I just found out that I I grew into allergies. I don't know how that happened, but I guess I did. So
It's terrible.
Oh, it's lame.
Well, a little aside from the Bigfoot thing, something a little lighter. Since you live in the Pacific Northwest, how often do you see some sort of Bigfoot paraphernalia? Whether it's novelties like stickers, shirts, hats, statues. I mean, are they all over the place?
They actually, you really can't go too far, without seeing something. I see little things at Fred Meyer. You can see things at Walmart here. You'll see things, could be a local gas station or something. My keychains or something with Bigfoot on it says "I love Oregon." It really is it is permeated, especially I would say over the last 15 years, especially when things like, Finding Bigfoot came out, things like that. Some of these other kind of almost like household names today, Expedition Bigfoot, Finding Bigfoot. There's those guys, the Sasquatch Chronicle guys, I guess. These guys have all kind of, I think, really brought it, pretty mainstream today. They're kind of the reason for that, I think, and seeing all of the paraphernalia and all the cool stuff. I got this cool statue we found in Bandon, Oregon, where this guy does these wood carvings, and that's what sits in back of me here at my desk. Some of my videos you can see on YouTube and stuff when I do them live. You'll see this little statue back there. It's actually a Bigfoot statue. So it's all over, actually. It really is.
Well, that comes from me being on the East Coast, and when I see a sticker, I actually run to take a picture of it because it's so rare. Unless you're in the mountains of North Carolina, then you see them a lot more, but it really is rare.
Oh, yeah. And I've kind of added to that because of what I do, so.
Is there someone in the Bigfoot world that you admire, aside from me?
Aside from you, there's really none. No, actually, there are quite a few folks out here that I admire, and I do want to give out one big fat shout out, of course, to Bob Gimlin, who I met him a couple summers ago, and met him for over the course of a weekend. We all kind of hung out with him and this other Bigfoot event that was happening. And I have to tell you, he friended my children so fast, all of them, all four of them. And he would hang out with them and, half the day and just sit and chat with them and talk with them and have fun and do whatever. And he was just a really great guy. And so, just my hat's off to him to being there are, I'm telling you, there is something missing today in society. And I think what we're missing is a little bit of what Bob Gimlin has. And that's, I'm going to tell you this. Sorry, ladies, but it's just a man, being a good man. And I think that's something that is missing today. There are also some folks out there, all of those guys who created, Beachfoot out there here in Oregon. It's a great, great little thing. It's really cool, really awesome. I enjoy William Jevning to the T. I think that he's pretty straightforward with everything. He's like me. He's not much for the whole UFO Bigfoot connection thing. He's really into this being, straight up animal, just like me. Some sort of North American primate. So I really enjoy that. I know the one thing I don't enjoy is there's a lot of craziness in the community. It's kind of why I took a break for a while. There really is a lot of craziness in the community here. But there are folks out here that are just great, like yourself, like Bob Gimlin, William Jevning. There is, Shannon Legro. She is just a really, really awesome gal, really nice. I don't buy into everything that she talks about, and I'm not sure she does either. But what I do know is that she's really informative. She really dives into the subject matter, and I love it when she starts talking Bigfoot. It's just great. She's got some great books out, and they're pretty awesome as well that I'm kind of thumbing through and reading through right now.
She seems pretty talented. I've read a couple of her books, and
Yeah.
I've listened to her show, and
Yeah.
she's great.
Yeah. I'm glad that her and William kind of took off on their own. I think it was a great idea, and it was best for them. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah. What's your opinion on the surge in popularity of cryptids? And I don't just mean Bigfoot, but even talking about Dogman and Mothman.
I knew you'd ask me this. So everybody's going to hate me now and never listen to anything that I have to say or listen to my awesome stories. And hopefully you'll just ask me about those. I have to tell you this. I started out online as an internet marketing consultant, SEO specialist. So I did a lot of research and stuff like that. And behind Pacwest Bigfoot, when I started it, I did do a little bit of research to find out, my own little niche in here and figure out what could I do out here to really, kind of, entertain and inform people about and have, kind of fulfill that own thing, that thing inside me that I wanted to do at the same time. And I have to tell you, I hadn't seen no Dogman stuff 10 years ago. I didn't see it. I didn't see nothing about no Dogman. Maybe werewolf, but I'm just going to be straight up honest with you. I am a straightforward, I don't even know how to answer that question. I don't believe in Dogman. I don't believe there's some sort of weird psychic connection between Mars and Bigfoot. I don't think there are little blue orbs flying in and out of their ears. I don't buy into any of that stuff. If people want to, that's great. If they're into it, whatever, if they want to have that conversation, if they want to do go down that road, hey, fine, be it with me, whatever gets you going, whatever you enjoy. But the thing is that from what I saw and what I experienced, it's physical. It's an animal of some kind, not to mention those I have talked to myself. It's never been anything more, and then again, nothing less. So, it always is what it is. But what do I think about cryptids? There's so many different cryptids coming out every day online because the internet has created a monster out of monsters, to be honest. And that's the world we live in, though. And that's the world that, I guess you would say makes us a little bit better at sifting through malarkey, as that crazy Biden guy would say. It helps us to kind of sift through all the malarkey out here and sift through facts. You know, so me personally, I don't buy the stuff. I'm just going to throw it out there. I don't buy into it. I'm not into it. I'm not into Dogman stuff. I don't get it. I'd never even seen a search for that stuff, even, 3-4 years ago. So
I
there you
thought
go.
Dogman was a werewolf. I had no idea that,
That's what
it
I
was so
thought.
popular.
I thought it would be considered a werewolf, but then again, werewolves actually existing is about as real as, Twilight based on a true story. Okay, so it's just not happening.
So my channel, is called Bigfoot's Wilderness, and in the beginning, I promised that, well, I didn't promise, but I stated that I would see if I could get a hold of some, some other cryptid stories. But to be honest, I've never been approached. I have quite
Mm-mm.
a load of stories, of encounter stories that people have sent me that I could go on and on about. And a couple things, I've not got any that are the woo, none that are spiritual or alien, nothing like that. And I've never gotten anything for Mothman, Dogman, etc. So, until I
Yeah.
get it, I can't do anything about it, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, exactly, and the thing is that if you get it, I mean, you've really got to be pretty skeptical about all of it,
Sure.
So, there are, as a Christian and as a person who loves science, I am totally into, the law of thermodynamics, all of it, everything that goes with, creationism, everything, all the laws that we live by, relativity. I'm all into that. And I see room and space for that.
So there was a little gap here where we had an internet issue, but we picked right back up. So let's continue.
So, like I was saying, like the arc and everything else. I mean, you can fit that thing on there. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that today. So I'm a pretty straightforward guy when it comes to it. And when she had asked me, this lady at church, where did Bigfoot fit on the ark? Where was Bigfoot on the ark? I was like, both of them could have been anywhere. It's just a fact. I mean, you start thinking about it, 99 or 99.9% of all animals on the planet that actually live on land are no bigger than a house cat. So, and most of them are no bigger than a rat, if you think about it. So that could have been anything, it just, it could have been. And, I don't believe in evolution because you've got to answer all kinds of different questions for me. And that's going to take a big, huge leap of faith as far as science is concerned. And so when I started thinking about the, the Gigantopithecus of its time being on an ark, I'm fine with that. I think it's totally possible. I think it's completely feasible. And I think that maybe they bridged over here through that land bridge during that time after the ark, and they moved over here, and a lot of different folks moved over here over time. And that's just kind of what happened.
It's very possible.
So, yeah, it is completely possible. As a matter of fact, that is more realistic than telling me they phase in and out from Mars.
Yeah, we don't have any answers. People give us what they give us. They tell us what they tell us. They share as much as they know. These people aren't scientists. They're people like you and me.
Yeah, because there's also the thing where people were like, well, they're like giant Nephilim from the Bible. It's like, I went to Bible college, and I'll tell you what, they were not Nephilim. These were they were giants, basic apes. I mean, these are huge, huge ape-like creatures. I mean, that's what they are. They're just some sort of primate. And primates can be intelligent, just like a dolphin can be intelligent or a chimp can be intelligent. I think these were probably just even a little bit more intelligent than even those two things. So, as far as I'm concerned, I'm pretty straightforward with this stuff.
Yeah, I think the reason people say Nephilim is because they saw the Russell Crowe version of Moses.
Yeah, well, Noah, and when you're looking at Noah and you're having
And
like
Noah.
giant trees pop out of, Lord of the Rings to help him with the boat, it's not real. It's just not real. That stuff doesn't happen. You can say, well, you weren't there, and I was like, well, neither were you. And I'm just going to go on basic, just common sense because Occam's razor has always proven to be true.
There you go. All right, now let me ask you a question that kind of hits too close to home for me. But do you think the social media aspect is helpful or hurtful to Bigfoot?
I think it's like anything. It's pretty much helpful and hurtful, all at the same time. It's kind of like Trump, Trump 2020. I'm all about him, and I'll tell you this right now. He kind of hurts himself sometimes with his tweets, and he kind of, but for the most part, I mean, there he is, doing wonderful
Uh-oh.
things.
You faded out again.
Oh, did I? Am I here though? Ah,
You're there.
I'm here.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
So
Start that one more time.
I was just saying that, it's kind of like Trump and and all of his, tweeting and tweets and all that stuff. It's basically like, you know, he has good stuff, and it says, and it's great for him. It's great for us. And then again, there's some tweets that are just horrible. You just like, man, why did he even say something? I mean, not horrible, but I mean, but they're just don't make any sense. I think the same thing goes with social media for the Bigfoot community and Bigfoot at large, pun intended. Um, I think that social media is, what we see out here is both good and bad. I mean, as far as the media part of it, it's like, oh my gosh, he's fading in from Mars. Oh my gosh, he's doing this. Oh my gosh, Bigfoot's got, blue orbs floating around his brain, whatever that is. Um, that kind of stuff can kind of make it, funny. I get people, even, at church for me, I get people on the street like, do you really believe in Bigfoot, man? It's like, well, you didn't see what I saw. You didn't experience what I experienced. So, that's just how that is,
Yeah. Sure.
And so, for me, there's also the good things. There's the awesome things that come from it. Some of the best encounters I've ever heard, have come from folks like you, folks like, Sasquatch Chronicles. I think they get a little far out there, and they get out there and did some pretty weird stuff that I don't listen to there. But man, like, what was that? Episode 10? Episode 10 gets my wife to stay up all night when she's listening to it. It was really good. It was such a great, awesome, honest to goodness, you could tell, just encounter story.
Refresh my memory. What was
He
episode
was
10?
the bow hunter up in Washington, and he was talking about it, just walked across the road and then blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it was a really, really great encounter story. And I have to tell you, I haven't heard, there's been some on there that I have heard that have just been just straight up, just believe you can't help but believe them. I've had the same thing on Pacwest Bigfoot. I don't do interviews anymore. Um, but when I did, there were so many of them there. I was pretty picky about what I brought on. I didn't want to dive into a lot of the weirdness. What I did bring in was just fact people who had factual information and encounters that they just wanted to share, and that's what I brought on.
Yeah.
So
Well, so we're always trying to understand why Bigfoot is so elusive, and I mentioned on an Instagram post that Bigfoot researcher Peter Byrne was doing an investigation and was talking to
mm,
two elderly Indians of the Colville Reservation located in Northeast Washington.
yeah,
And they recounted that their grandfathers said that in the 1850s, what they called the Oma caught the
yeah.
white man's disease and died. Yeah, I was wondering, any feedback on that? Could that be a possibility as to
I
why
met
Bigfoot
Peter
is
Byrne.
rarely approached?
Yeah, I met Peter Byrne. And it seems like a really awesome, researcher, scientist, whatever, field researcher. Um, and you got to remember though that there's a lot of, there's a lot of stuff that we hear that really are tall tales and fables. But even tall tales and fables can be based out of something that some sort of truth is inside. There's some sort of nugget. Is it possible that monkeys can get the flu virus from a human being?
Don't know.
I
I
don't
don't.
think so.
I don't
I've
think so.
never heard of it. They can't get the flu virus from us. Can they get the coronavirus? Well, no, I don't think they can. Or else there'd be a bunch of monkeys falling out of trees everywhere. So, what I'm saying is that if it's an animal and we're living in this reality, in this universe, Is it possible for some sort of North American based primate to contract some sort of influenza or smallpox or something like that? Probably not. I'm going to go with not because that's the evidence that I have seen and I have learned and I have experienced, throughout my, it may be a short 49 years on this planet, almost 49, but I'll tell you what, that's what I've experienced and that's what I know to be true. So I'm going to automatically assume for now that I don't think that would be possible. Although interesting, and did it cause them to die out? Well, apparently not, because there's still people seeing this thing.
I guess the other point is that they stay elusive to stay away from us. So those who've had encounters who've not gotten too close or haven't been attacked, which I think is rare, you always wonder if there's a correlation between them being elusive and having something to do with what the statement was from Peter Byrne and the elders.
Well, yeah, because I mean, you think about it. I mean, I don't have a lot of trees right around my yard or anything, but I'm sure a green beret could hang out here, all day long without me seeing him, and probably walk 2 feet by him. He wasn't born into that stuff. He just learned that trade.
Yeah.
These things, this animal is a primate. It's born into this. It's what it does. It's part of its DNA, its structure. It's part of its nature. We all have this nature in us, this whatever it is, as human beings, we seek out purpose and meaning, and for Bigfoot, it seeks out food and shelter and to propagate and to literally stay safe.
Which leads me to a question that I think Wes Germer would say on Sasquatch Chronicles about every time at the end of the show. Do you think we'll ever prove the existence of Bigfoot by way of a body?
Well, it's not like they haven't. I mean, we look at things like Jacko. Was it really a monkey or a Bigfoot? Who knows? I don't know. There was lots of things, or Native American tales of these things dead, and they burned the bodies or buried them or whatever it was. Yeah, is it going to be difficult to find one? Gosh, man, I got a friend that works for the Forest Service here, and he's one of the actual government ones that can actually arrest you with a gun in your face. And it's like he said, he's all, when they report like dead bears or cougars or things to us, it's like, we got to go get them right. We got to go take care of that now, because he's all, it doesn't take, but sometimes just a week, if that, for this thing to just be gone, because of everything that will eat it, drag it off and eat it.
It's a good point.
So yeah, you've got to, and that's not me. That's what I'm getting from an actual official. So, and I'm just telling you, that's what it is. Now he has told me he's never really seen hide nor hair of this thing. So he's not quite a believer in it, but he does have a friend who works in the same trade. This guy works up north and swears up and down he's seen one.
That's pretty unbelievable. I mean, it's nice to hear that the government officials will occasionally admit to something.
It is, yeah. I don't know his name. I probably will never know.
Don't rat
his
him
name.
out. Right.
Nope. But what I do know is what was told to me. I will never write that story. I will never do anything with that other than just say it right here that, yeah, I know a guy that knows a guy. There you go. That's as far as I can go with it.
Well, you're going to love this next question. What's the dumbest thing you've done that's related to Bigfoot?
The dumbest thing I've done that's related. I took a break for 3 months of not writing any encounter stories.
Well, you've got a lot of fans.
It's been about
they're
4
hanging
months,
in tight.
actually. They are. They're such a wonderful, wonderful group of people. There's nearly 50,000 altogether, I think there is. And I have to tell you, each and every single one of them is just a massive blessing for me. It has. So hopefully you asked me that question, but I can share that because it's awesome. But the stupidest thing I ever did was really take a break from it. I did need to break, but I don't think I needed a break so long. And the other thing I think that was stupid was I kind of, for a while there, was kind of joining in the reindeer games of the back and forth with, so-called researchers and, professionals in the Bigfoot industry. It's like, okay. I kind of got into the back and forth with that for a little while. That was at the very beginning, though, beginning of when I was kind of helping out with other folks here. And I have to tell you, that was dumb to get involved in. And that didn't last very long, but a few weeks. And I was like, what am I doing? This is stupid. So you know, I kind of bowed out of the arguments and the craziness and the back and forth and just said, you guys go at it. I'm out. I gotta go. I'm gonna
I
read a
have to
book.
say, I get pulled into that every now and then. And if something I post and someone wants specific information, I didn't have the encounter. I'm sharing the encounter, something I find online, something that's
Oh, I would get
passed
that at first
along.
too,
Oh yeah,
just because of the nature of what I do.
yeah.
So, yeah.
It can get catastrophic sometimes when these people just come at you with all kinds of
Oh man,
wild
yeah,
accusations.
no. I had them all over 6 ways from Sunday, and I was like, "You guys, do you know how to read?" I was like,
Yeah.
"Do you know what I do?" Because if you read what I do, then you're going to understand that you sound like a moron. So,
All right, I've
yeah.
taken up a lot of your time, but I've got one more question, and I think you can answer this one pretty easily. So, what's next for Pacwest Bigfoot?
Pacwest Bigfoot started out as it was this little burning fire in me to write short stories, and I love to write. It was something that I went to Bible college for a couple of years, but to be honest, I am a high school dropout. I dropped out of high school because my dad was getting clean and sober at the time, and I had to take over the family business. And by the time he got clean and sober and I was going back to school, I was just like, I'm an entrepreneur. I got to go. So I just left. Um, for me, though, the one thing that I always wanted to learn more about was writing. I really enjoy writing, and I really enjoyed writing these little, just short stories. It was just fun for me. And as a blogger in the internet marketing or online business world, I found that, I needed a break from writing technical and mindset pieces. I needed to just write for fun. And so one day I took my own little experience and my mom's, and then I took a couple other friends of mine who had experiences here in the Pacific Northwest with Bigfoot, came up with a name real quick for a YouTube channel, and I wrote the stories and I read them back on there just to see if people would enjoy me taking these based on true encounters or reports and turning them into a campfire like story. And I woke up with about 10,000 views. By the end of the week, there was about 30,000 views, and it was just kind of went from there. And I have to tell you, every single one of those people out there inside the Pacwest Bigfoot community are just awesome folks. Some of them don't believe what I believe. Some of them believe that there are blue orbs flying around Bigfoot, and I'm fine with that.
Me too.
Some of them believe that, like me, that it's just some sort of North American primate that is small in numbers and really good at eluding any issues or problems faced when it comes to human beings. So for me, those folks are they're just awesome. The Bigfooting community overall is great. The Bigfoot community overall is wonderful. Period. It's just how it is. They're all actually, the majority of them are just great, awesome, nice folks. And that was my whole thing. I didn't want to come out here and be another Bigfoot researcher. I didn't want to be another, Sasquatch Chronicles or anything like that. I just wanted to take what I've been gifted with and use it to basically just entertain and to have you, the listener, the enjoyer of good Bigfoot stories and things like that, just do that. Just be entertained and enjoy. And when you're not out researching and you're not out doing your thing, listen to a great Pacwest Bigfoot story. Just kick back and enjoy. That's all I wanted from it.
Well, you brought it up. slightly. So tell us your experience.
This will be a little bit long, but not too long. I'll try to give you the brief history here. I had moved from Ashland, Oregon to Rogue River, Oregon, which was kind of like, it was a pretty big cultural shift, actually, even from one end of the valley to the other. I grew up in a very liberal community. And then all of a sudden, I'm living in between what is called Rogue River and what is that little town out there? Oh my gosh. Anyway, it's not a little town out there, but I'm living out East Evans Creek Road, and you know where that's at if you live there. And so we were living out there, and basically we moved out there around beginning of summer. It was right after school got out, and I was in junior high in Ashland, my 7th grade. I was about to go into 8th grade at the Rogue River Middle School there. And it was funny. It was crazy, man. You know, all of a sudden I'm living in the country, and it was kind of weird. You know, I couldn't just go into town. I lived about, 5 miles out of town in the countryside, in the thick woods. Anyways, suffice it to say, that first Christmas out there was pretty awesome. We did get a little bit of a dusting of snow, which was pretty cool, I remember. But we decided to go up we were going up to a place called Elderberry Flats. I think that's what it's called, Elderberry Flats. And it's got this creek that runs all the way through the ravine between the mountains, and there was a lot of logging up there for a while. And there was, I've gone up there to do some gold panning, which is how I had my second experience. But both these things happened basically within about a 3 to 5 mile radius. I think it was about a 2 to 3 mile radius, actually. But they were separated by over 20 years, or around 20 years. So this happened in the same general vicinity. But this first one, I'm like 13 or 14 or whatever, and I'm 13, and I am out there with my parents. And what we did is we were coming down, and we were in the middle of this Elderberry Flats, what they call it. And we turned off over this little runoff of water that, goes in between the road and this little turnoff. And this turnoff opens into this big wide turnabout where, trucks can come off of the logging road that goes up behind the mountain and can just kind of turn in there, turn around and get themselves out of there or whatever. Anyways, I think they were bringing the logs down and then loading them up there. They'd turn there, load them up, and then they would take off that way. Because that road was really pretty small, and it was twisty, it was a serpentine kind of a road. And if you were in that area and you were looking to the right, you'd see that the road goes up, and it goes up around a bend, up around the backside of a pretty huge mountain. And to the right of that was kind of an open area up until about, it was like, I can't remember, it's 30 yards, 40 yards, whatever, probably around 30 yards maybe, if that. And all of a sudden you're just in this thick wall of just trees. You can't see, and we're there at it's light outside, real light. We're talking like 11 or 12 or whatever. And we're looking for a Christmas tree, man. This is right before Christmas. We're looking for this Christmas tree. And it's really funny because me and my mom decided to go up the dirt road, the logging road. And my brother, my sister, and my dad decided to stick over just a little bit southwest of where me and my mom, the opposite direction me and my mom are heading. So my mom gets going up the road, and I'm following her, and she kind of veers off towards the tree line. And she's looking at something, and it's like she's following something. And I'm like, well, what are you doing? She's like, hey, Dave, come here and check this out. I'm like, all right, hippie woman, what? And I always made fun of her, like hippie woman. I was like, what you got? What's up? And she looks and she shows me, she's like, what is that? And I'm looking at this from the tree line. And it kind of comes in like the feet are going straight one in front of the other, but it's bowing. It's like making kind of a rounded kind of a walk out to just to the very side, just a few feet off the side of that old road in the snow. It was snow then, and we were sitting in snow that was it was pretty deep up in the mountain there. And we're sitting there, and it goes out to the side of the road, and then it shoots straight down to where that little, it's not even really the creek itself, Elderberry Creek or whatever creek that is they have there. It's one of those like little runoffs or something that's kind of like creekish. And I forgot what they call that, but anyways, it's just runoff water that runs down the side of the main road down there. And it went all the way down to that, and then it shot straight back up into the trees. But these were footprints. These were not like 4 big bear prints or even a bear with one foot in the other You could make out toes in the snow. Toes in the snow. And that means it had stopped snowing earlier that morning, which means that it was there within probably 3 to 4 hours of us being there. And it walked down to that creek, and it must have been getting water out of it. I don't know. But then it shot back up in the woods. But my mom starts following these tracks down the road. She looks at them. She looks back at the trees. She looks at them. She looks back at the trees. And she let out a blood-curdling scream that would make a Bigfoot proud. And I have to tell you, she starts running. And I'm thinking to myself, woman, I'm your son. Why are you leaving me in the woods with a monster? And but she runs off screaming. And my dad comes back. He took a look at him. He's all, it's probably bear, blah, 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 blah. But he did admit that he wasn't quite sure. He was like, it was a little different. He's all, I've never seen bear tracks like that. He's all, I'll give you that. I was like, all right, I'll take that. 20 years later or whatever, me and a buddy and his wife and their little 2-year-old were decided I needed to get out of Dodge for a while. For a weekend, we were going to go up, and he wanted to do some gold panning. And I was like, whatever, dude, I'm in. I've never done that. I like the country. I like being outdoors and stuff like that, but I wouldn't consider myself a mountain man by any means, but I love to fly fish. So there you go. So we get up towards basically, I think it's at least within, just a couple, 2-3 miles, maybe 5 miles of where we were that December, basically, 20 years earlier. And I have to say it was just crazy because I remember, I'm trying to remember if I said it, but I believe I told them, I was like, me and my mom and my dad and then we came up here once, we saw some Bigfoot tracks. I can't remember if I told them that or not, but I think I did, if I remember correctly. I'm, about to be 49, so it's true. Your memory starts slipping. So, except for Bob Gimlin, that guy's memory just never slips. I don't know what's up with that. I'm gonna start eating whatever he's eating, but I'll tell you, we were basically camped. This is July. I believe it was July. And the creek was kind of shrinking already. It was pretty hot that year. The creek might have been about, just the water itself was probably about 10, 11 feet wide from edge, from side to side, from bank to bank. In front of us on the opposite side of the creek was this mountain, or a really large hill. I mean, this thing shot up, pretty straight up, almost a straight up angle. But it was nothing but like oak and pine and brush and just mucky muck stuff that you wouldn't want to walk through. And we camped. What we did is we kind of cleared out some of the bigger rocks and stuff and put down a mattress. We had this big tent and it had one of those little separators in it. So I got one side, him and his wife and their daughter got one side. And, he had a gun and everything in there and whatnot because he liked to play it safe too, because there are a lot of mountain lions up that way and stuff. So anyways, we were, camping and, and doing some gold panning that day. It was pretty fun. It was pretty awesome. And that night, the night that this happened, it was crazy. when you're on a river rock and you're kind of laying down, I don't care if you got a little, that we didn't have a mattress, but I remember they had a little hard little foam thing that we could put down there, but still it's really uncomfortable. But you put your hand on one side of your desk and you thump on the other side, you can feel that vibration, or you do that on the floor and you can kind of feel that vibration. That's what we felt that night when whatever it was walked off from behind the tent. But first, before it did, what happened was I was asleep, he was asleep. His wife, I guess, was basically just starting to kind of, wake up. But their daughter, the 2-year-old, just screamed all of a sudden bloody murder. Just, another good scream that would have made another Bigfoot proud. I mean, it was pretty loud. And all of a sudden, but right before that, his wife said, she's all, I heard this. Like a sniff, this big, huge whiff right above the kid's head. And the kid screamed for some reason. And all of a sudden, she just screamed. It was sharp, it was quick, but all of a sudden we just heard this thud, thud, splash, thud, and then up that mountainside on the other side. Whatever it was went thud, thud, splash, thud. That's footsteps. And we heard it. It sounded like somebody was like leaping off, running off really fast or walking off really fast. But whatever it was extremely heavy, because I felt that thud, and that thing had to be, after that, like thud, thud, it was over there by the creek, mind you. It was those strides had to be pretty big. And then to go splash once and then a big thud on the other side of that creek. That creek was 10 to 11 feet wide. That's a 5-foot stride. Even if I'm off by a couple feet, you're still talking about a 4 to 5 foot stride. Then it starts crashing up the mountain. My buddy grabs his gun. We jump out of this tent, and all of a sudden, boom, nothing. Just dead quiet. Not a cricket, not an owl, not a fart in the wind. Nothing. It's this quiet.
It's pretty amazing.
And then he's like, get in the car. So we're like, yeah. So we get in it was a Toyota 4Runner, but we got in the 4Runner and we're just kind of kicking it in there. His wife and the kid went back to sleep in the back, but we pretty much stayed up in the front in the seats, just kind of with the windows cracked, trying to freak each other out, because we were going to try to man it out for the night and whatnot, I remember. But I know we left the next day because there was no evidence either, because that river rock there, and there's sand there, but there was so much river rock you couldn't make jack nothing out of it. But what we felt and what she heard, and then what we heard going up that mountain, was literally something just walking and crashing through the woods up that way, up through the brush and everything, until we got out of that tent. And then it was quiet, as if it just stopped, hunkered down, and just sat there. And it probably did for a long time. Because I'll tell you what, we didn't feel that comfortable. We manned it out, but, we left our windows cracked. And I'll tell you what, nobody lit a flashlight, because I want to see any faces pop up into my front of my window. I could handle a shadow walking by, but if I was to put some on a window, man, that'd freak me out. So no, nobody was lighting up flashlights or looking around, but it was a pretty good moon out that night, I believe, pretty good light. So we could actually see pretty well anyways once our eyes adjusted. So, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you telling that story kind of gives you a chill, because I remember with my encounter, I mean,
you saw it though. I mean,
all
I saw was footprints and then heard what I heard, but there is no other explanation for something to actually walk off. And I keep telling people, I was like, do you know anything that walks off in the woods at night, literally, other than some forest person? Well, that forest person must weigh about 700-800 pounds.
That was my thought. But before I saw it, I was creeped out in the dark, thinking something's face was gonna pop up in front of me in my car. So that you described that very well.
I've had a couple other experiences in the woods. It's not like I'm not a woodsy person. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I'm not Grizzly Adams by any means. I do enjoy the outdoors. I do get outdoors as much as I can and do what I can. But there's been a couple other times in my life where there's been some creepy feelings while camping. And it's just like you just kind of look around and you're like, something is watching me. I had that feeling when I lived up on the mountain house. We call it the mountain house, lived up on top of a mountain. And we went up to the very top of the mountain, and up there was this old, I don't know what it was. It just looked like somebody I think used to live up there. It used to be a cabin up there or something. But it was just weird. And all of a sudden, it's just me and my boys. My boys were like dilly-dallying around. And all of a sudden, I felt like, we got to go. We got to go. Something is here, and it's watching us. We got to go. It was probably a mountain lion, because there's mountain lions up there. But fortunately, I had my 30-06 with me, so I was okay with that. But still, I felt like, we got to go. I didn't even go back down the trail we came from. Something said, just go this way, go straight home, walk down through those thickets and just keep walking. We walked through the thickest crap and then had to like make sure we didn't have ticks on us when we got out. But we walked through that whole crap all the way back down to the house. And it's all because I just felt like something was not right and it wasn't good.
So you made a hasty exit.
I made a very hasty exit. I kept the boys right in front of me, and I would turn around. I'd stop about every 2 minutes, turn, stop, listen, and then move on. And I think that's a good way to back out of those situations, is to get out of there, but don't forget to stop, listen for just a second. Don't just like maybe 10, 15 seconds, listen real quick, get up, keep moving. Make sure nothing's following you. And if it is following you, at least now you know what direction it's coming from.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's just good safety stuff.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I think
awesome, man.
I really appreciate you sharing that, because I wasn't sure if you were going to or not. So, but thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I'm going to keep doing the Pacwest Bigfoot thing, and just all I'm doing there, guys, is I'm just turning your reports and things like that into campfire-like stories for everybody for fun. So I hope you guys enjoy those whenever you're not diving into the serious scientific side of this and the research side. When you can't get that done, listen to a great story.
Well, I'll be sure to share this with you, and you can share it with your people.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate your
All
time.
right, man. All right.
Bye.
Bye.
That's going to do it for me tonight. Be sure to check the show notes and links, and also to find Tom Lyon's newest audiobook, Bigfoot Frightening Encounters, which I narrate. Have a great night, everyone.